Bum bum bum. Suicide when no one could help me. Hey, what's up? Hey, hi. If you're feeling suicidal, welcome. I was doing a program in my business where I wanted to help at least one person dealing with like really bad suicide every month. But then I remembered, well, when I was suicidal, I wouldn't talk to anyone about it. I was ashamed of it, I guess. So I was like, well, let me make a video specifically for suicide, and maybe you can help yourself like I did, if you want to, you know. So this is kind of a story, or how I manage my suicidal thoughts and how I understand them. So brief history of my suicidal thoughts. When I was 8 years old, I tried to choke myself to death with a belt in the bathroom. Um, that's my parents are fighting, so I guess that's how I manifested my emotions in that way. It started a very unhealthy coping mechanism for stress, I think. Ultimately, I think a lot of my suicidal tendencies or thoughts were more just coping mechanisms, improper coping mechanisms versus an actual thought. Because it was a lot different when because I had multiple emotionally charged attempts from 14 to 30, much like the 8-year-old attempt, um, which was very immature. When you look at it, it's an immature, reactionary, emotional thing to do. Because growing up as a man, you're taught that I guess you're taught that you're not supposed to have emotions or something. I don't know what they're trying to teach you, but that's the message I got was, dude, don't have emotions, don't show them ever to anyone. So they would, being a very emotional person, they would manifest in some sort of way and usually culminate with me trying to kill myself at some point in time. Um, but when I was 33, after I'd lost everything twice, lost everything twice. Now I've lost everything the third time. Third time's a charm, right? So when I consciously decided to kill myself at 33, it was the most real attempt. It was, planned out. And this was my escape plan. I was like, this is going to happen. And that's just kind of the two different types of suicidal thoughts that I had in my life. There were the active thoughts, or these are the thoughts along the lines of planning and looking at different ways to do it, like really serious considerations. This is when, these are when things got really bad. My divorces, um, loss of, good jobs, stuff like that. When certain major events would happen, this is where my coping mechanism would take me. Then there's the passing. I just want to die. The yearning feeling that when things aren't going well, or this is my depression. My depression was a suicidal depression, I think, and so you know now that I've kind of experienced and understand my life more, I understand more of like the different stages of depression I lived in. And it was a lot of the passive suicidal thoughts were just, I'm tired of this. I just wanted it to end. I'm tired of this day to day. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. I can't stand these people. I don't like those people. Blah blah blah. It's like I want it to end. I just don't want to be a part of any of it. Um, so I think it's important to identify those two different types of. So I think the passive are just stress coping mechanisms. It's like we're intelligent enough to know that we do have a way out, whether we want to exercise it or not. So in my life there was the reality and then my perceived reality. Right, the reality was I am poor. Am uneducated. I don't have a lot of support, and I am ashamed of my feelings when I'm suicidal. But the perceived reality was that I was helpless, hopeless, alone, and pathetic. Which, the reality is I was none of those things. I could have gotten help. There was hope. I wasn't alone, and well, You could argue whether or not I was. Well, I am. I still think I probably should move pathetic to reality because I felt pretty pathetic. That's why I was ashamed of my feelings, you know. But that's all that was. Is, you know, I was just ashamed to feel so pathetic that I wanted to kill myself when everyone else seemed to be wanting to live and their life was worse than mine. I was like, how can you? Why would you want to live when your life is, you know, why don't you want to kill yourself? That was one of the biggest things I investigated upon my reawakening or whatever. So why was I so unhappy? There's things I couldn't explain. I couldn't understand. I had a wife, a decent paying job, at least what I thought was decent paying. You know, I had children. You know, I was living the American dream. You know, and I didn't have peace, happiness, understanding, or the human dream is what I call. But I mean, you know, I spent so much time trying to figure out why I wasn't happy by investigating the things that didn't make me happy. You know, it was like instead of looking for the things that did make me happy, I was looking at things that didn't make me happy and wondering why don't these things make me happy. And I think that might be a trap that a lot of suicidal people get caught into because our minds are very powerful and they are very efficient and they love loops. So as soon as you find a comfortable loop, your brain's going to want to always gravitate towards that loop. And it takes some effort to break that loop. So I spent so much time trying to figure out why I was unhappy with the things that I had. It's like, you know, you hear all these things. It's like you should be happy with the things you have. Blah, 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 you know, and it's weird because I got to a point in my life where I was happy with nothing. Like I had nothing. And very little, but I was happy with what I had. You know, when I had everything, I wasn't happy with what I had. When I had nothing, I was very happy with what I had. It's funny how that works, right? So, you know, so here's kind of the differences I like to think, you know, between the emotional and conscious suicide attempts. You know, the emotional were just typically preceded by a stressful event. They were spur of the moment, spontaneous attempts like pills or trying to cut off your air supply, like choking or, you know, trying to hang yourself or something. You know, maybe CO2 poisoning. No real plan, no note, just an emotional reaction to an event. The conscious attempt, you know, I went through an accepted death. I really, really thought about it and, you know, really accepted my mortality and really understood a lot of deep truths about the world. And, you know, I was planning it out, purchasing the materials. I was going to go with the helium, you know, sleep. I had an old CPAP mask I was going to rig up and just let the helium run and just die in my sleep, and hopefully that killed me. And that's was the plan. Dun dun dun. If I ever do kill myself, then that's probably how I'll still do it. 'Cause that was the original plan. Like I haven't completely thrown this plan out. To be honest with you, I haven't thrown the plan out. You know, I keep it on the shelf to keep myself frosty. It's like, hey, don't let your life get too bad, or I'll pull them out. Now it's like a legitimate escape plan, but I'm hoping I can get to the point where I don't have to escape life anymore. You know, you leave well thought out notes or explanations. You know, hence the video. And you might make it look like an accident. I also had a lot of, you know, if then situations that I'd concocted. Because I'm like a probability savant. I can think of a lot of different, you know, things, and there's a lot of opportunities that you know, there's a lot of opportunities to die you come across every day, right? So and if you could make it look like an accident, you won't hurt people as much. All right, people won't be like, oh, you're so selfish. You know, that's in the mind of a suicidal person. You know, it's like make it look like an accident, you know. That's, you know, like I said, I haven't written either one of those plans off the table just yet. So why was suicide the answer when I decided to do it? It was because I'd reached a point where I felt that I was weaker than my mental illness. You know, it was depression, anxiety. You know, I felt that I could not successfully manage my life in a way that allowed me to have any peace. My circumstances seemed insurmountable, and I felt this to be the only way out. And I think that's ultimately where a lot of people come to. That conclusion is, you know, I can't defeat my mental illness. and um, I'm managing it way better than I have before. I'll give you that. Depression and anxiety or whatever, just this, and I don't know, and that's the thing. It's the human condition now. Like, we live in depressing. It's like, are we really depressed? Are we really anxious? Or, you know, do we really live in a society that doesn't really value anything, and everyone sees that and don't want to talk about it? What's the truth? So what caused all this? For me, ultimately I was not living my life for me at any point of my life. My parents dictated my life until I was 18. Then I had a child straight out of high school, and obligations dictated my life from that point on. Right? I never spent time learning who I was. I only got to know the version of me that lived in adverse circumstances, which I refer to as survival me. It's just one of those things where I never spent any time learning about me. It was always this for someone else. I was like a slave at home doing chores every day of the week until, or go to school. I had, my obligations to school. It was like I was living for my obligations. I wasn't living for me, and I think that's a key thing to see in your own life is how much of your life are you living for you, and how much of your life are you living for some obligations. I wasn't able to appreciate my kids when I had them because I just saw them as obligations, because that's what my life had turned into. Like, oh, I messed up. Here are some obligations. I have to take care of them, and I didn't enjoy taking care of them. It was like, but now when I spend time with my kids, I enjoy spending time with my kids. I want to take care of my kids. Um, so so what did I learn about myself after, deciding to kill myself? Well, I learned that I'm a multi-dimensional person. I'm not just, one-dimensional. I require a lot. I'm high maintenance, guys. High. I learned that I'm unique and require unique attention. High maintenance. I learned that I'm a pretty advanced being that requires advanced understanding to operate effectively. Most of this understanding is programmed into our minds as we grow, but I'm not normal, so normal programming didn't work for me. I rejected it on a core level constantly my entire life. So I couldn't understand I didn't understand why I rejected this programming, or why did I want to be different so bad, but I dug in and started finding things out. So here's what changed, right? Is when I made the conscious decision to kill myself, I realized that was the first time I really used my own free will, right? Like I said earlier, I was living my life for obligations and having some fun from time to time, right? And every decision I made prior to that was based on some obligation, and I filled my life with obligations to give my life meaning, because I didn't know how to give my own life meaning. And not knowing that I could choose my obligations, I ended up accepting a bunch of obligations that did not bring me any sort of peace or happiness. And it was the women in my life, and then the children, right? It was, those mistakes I made of choosing the wrong people to be with. It was costing me greatly. So life is bizarre, right? So when I exercised that free will, I started a journey. I know the first time I'd ever experienced, like, a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, wow, this is new. And it was ultimately what I understand now to be a new pathway in the brain opening up. I never exercised this part of my brain, and it was like waking up, part of my brain that had been shut down. But ultimately, I began to learn, and so my mind, body, and soul reconciliation was important. I'd spent most of my life as an atheist or agnostic, so there was no real reconciliation of the soul or spiritual side of life. So I lived in my life, just in the mind and body part for 33 years. And almost as soon as I reconciled the unknown in my life, things turned around rather quickly, which is where my life has led me now through more experimentation with this. You can reconcile the unknown in any way you want to create happiness. That's kind of the cool part about life, is you can, really, you can create happiness in any way you want, as long as it's not, hurting anyone else. I believe, why not? And as long as it's not hurting anyone else, go for it. So here's how I reconcile the unknown. I try to find the most basic understanding of everything, to find some sort of foundation to stand on. So these are the three basics that I started with my experimentations of life. And to the best of my knowledge, we're the most advanced animal on this planet. What should that look like? I lived my version, right? To the best of my knowledge, our brains are far more powerful than we give them credit for, and far more capable than we know, and we should respect that. And to the best of my knowledge, the solar spirit is this unknown magic that keeps the lights on upstairs in our brain, right? And those are the most simple explanations I could find, and I started from there and began to experience and live life with those understandings. Um, so, the most advanced animal, that's simply treating others the way you wanted to be treated, right? That's the simplest way I could understand the most advanced animal, because that would mean you have to be empathetic, you have to be understanding. you know, um, I was empathetic but I wasn't understanding. I felt a lot of feelings and I felt a lot of things other people would go through, but I wasn't understanding of those because I would feel that and reject it because I didn't like those feelings. So, doing this, you'll see some weird things happen in your life. And the key to doing this is when you are approached, when you approach someone who triggers you in some way, right? Um, so someone's triggering you or making you angry, you know, what I would do in this situation, I would do this with online comments, in social media comments, in real life, everywhere I could. When I felt myself being triggered or angered a little bit, I would think, what would I want someone to tell me or to do to me if I was triggering someone the way I'm being triggered right now, right? And so I would then act on it, and the most magical thing would happen. They would listen and seem to take something from the conversation simply by acting in my own idea of how humans should act. I saw immediate results in my universe. So when I'd be approached with someone who's racist, instead of being angry and confronting them about their racism, I would approach it differently. I would say, well, maybe if I was being racist in some kind of way, I try to put myself in their shoes and say, how would I want someone to handle this, and then I would come at it with a personal experience story or something of that nature and say, hey, you know, this is what I've experienced and this is why I've learned, to not feel this way. And a lot of the times people would say, wow, they step back on, I never really thought about it that way. And it was magic to me because I'd never seen people change their minds about something. Um, the brain being far more advanced than we can imagine. As I began to kind of transmute my own feelings and the feelings of others, I could feel my brain becoming more efficient. It was almost as if I was creating new pathways and opened up a highway between my logical and emotional sides. And this gave me great insight into art, which, I didn't take a class. I didn't go to college, and now all of a sudden I understand art to a great degree. Right, so that tells me that brain is pretty powerful. The one thing I couldn't shake is we have to write mountains of code to get two computers to play catch with a ball, and me and my toddlers could do this intuitively. It's not a lot to go on, but it was enough to convince this idiot to respect my brain, right? And the more I started to respect my brain and understand the importance it plays in my life, I know, stupid, right? Dumb, right? But, we have a brain, so we take it for granted, I think. And the less you take your brain for granted, the more you can do things with it. So reconciling the unknown. This is the toughest one because you can almost come to any conclusion and find what you want to find. That's how depression is so powerful. So our lives are like whatever our focus is on, we tend to live in that. So when I was depressed and suicidal all the time, I was focused on others more than I was focused on myself. When I was focused on myself and the world is how I fit in, how do I fit into this world, and what am I and how do I fit into it? And I was much more satisfied with life because I was trying to, I was making the world fit to me instead of me fitting into the world. By understanding and focusing on myself, it was like, okay, when I wake up in the morning, what can I do to increase my happiness? You know, is it 5 more minutes in the shower? Is it, spending a little bit of extra time brushing my hair? It was taking my time and doing all those things and appreciating the ability to do those things for myself. And that opened up more pathways in the brain. And that's what makes, I think, healing mental health so hard is that, it's all a matter of pathways being opened in the brain. And, nobody knows that one thing that's going to take your brain and open that pathway up. So you have to try to find the explanation that makes the most sense to you, right? So because your life, your pathways are built in a way, that are programmed now. You have programmed loops in your brain, so you just have to build new connections by doing new things and stretching out that stress. Um, so for me, am I still suicidal? Yes, I am. I do have a lot of suicidal thoughts, but not for the same reasons as before. Mostly now, it's because I'm lazy and it would require far beyond what I'm willing to do to have the life I want. And the life I want is absurd. I've really created a shit show in my life prior to my awakening, and I want to take the coward's way out now. Right? And I call it the coward's way out because I'd be killing myself to avoid all the responsibility I've created. As being the horrible person that I am, I crave that still. And yeah, I'm learning a lot about life. So much, I'd like to live, but it may just take too long to change my circumstances. And I'm an impatient person, and it's a lot of things I'd rather not deal with, like just everything, honestly. I manage it better now than before due to my reconciliation of the unknown. It may not sound like it with this slide, but I do manage my suicidal thoughts better. It's like no matter how I try to justify suicide now, it just feels more selfish than it did before because I am now aware of my value, which is a deterrent. And the way I'm looking at these suicidal thoughts now is they're just part of the loops in my brain I've created. Right? I've created loops in my brain that I've got to change, and these loops are huge, right? Like and these loops are just, they have to be changed. So I'm looking at them, at some point in time, my suicidal thoughts will go away because I was able to live almost a full year without suicidal, thoughts. And that was the first year of my life I've ever done anything productive, I've ever done anything, right? The first year of my life that I was not suicidal, I got a lot done, and that was huge to me, right? I saw how much I could accomplish from zero, and I got pretty far, I think, and at least for someone with absolutely no resources, I'm doing pretty good for someone with no resources. So all I've got is my brain. And so how do I manage it now? Well, one thing is I don't want to repeat life. I don't know for sure I won't be reincarnated as someone with worse circumstances, so I might as well ride this one out. Philosophy gives me a lot of... that's a double-edged sword, though, because your own philosophy can work against you sometimes, especially when you have principles and things like that. Helping others really helps me manage because I can see other people being helped, and that really helps me, like, wow, okay, maybe, man, I'm glad I shared, because I would never share before. Experimenting with psychedelics and cannabis has helped me manage, psychedelics has helped me a lot. Did a lot of microdosing that helped me understand it, and the funny thing is I did a lot of the psychedelic stuff before I decided to kill myself because I thought, this would be what I needed to help, but it wasn't. Like, the psychedelics didn't help me manage it. It helped me, understand it because that was my intentions, was to understand it, and then it wasn't necessarily a cure all like people preach it to be. It does help if you do it with the right intentions, I think. Now I look at life as an experiment to seek knowledge and wisdom, and I try to create my own happiness. And that's the key. You have to create happiness. I had a big misconception of happiness for my entire life. I too often would assign my happiness to events that would never happen. This further facilitated my belief that nothing ever works out in my life. When I assigned happiness to my life instead of events, I found ways to enjoy every situation I was in. It's a great exercise to find what really makes you happy, and I think it helps open up those new pathways. So here's the bad news is this is hard to do, right? Because your mind and your patterns and your loops are really powerful. So you have to respect your brain and understand that, these loops are just hardwired in, and you have to go in and you have to break them all up and create new ones. So, you know, for me in particular, changing my life has been extremely hard. I'm poor, I'm stupid, I'm talented, but I'm unlearned, right? I don't have the means to, you know, really learn anything, from someone. I have to learn everything on my own, which I'm doing a pretty good job of doing. It's just, it's a little harder when you're poor because, being poor means you're stressed out all the time because you can't pay your bills, can't get a decent job. There are no decent jobs. What is a decent job? You know? Um, I can't afford any of the help I need. I'm tired of doing it myself. Mental illness, it's just, it's work, it's work every day. And even though I've made tons of progress, I'm philosophically opposed to supporting a system that contributes to the circumstances that will cause more and more people to commit suicide. We live in a grossly inefficient system, and it's really hard for me to work at a corporate job because they're so inefficient. I'm trying to start my own business, but I'm horrible at that too, I guess. So if any of this sounds familiar, then guess what? It's going to be a tough road, but you may be able to trust the unknown a lot more than I can, and I've seen people who trust the unknown more, blast off, right? So get I'm still skeptical of the unknown. So I'm living life in experiments, and that's um, one of the things that keeps me going is just experimenting with my life. It's the only thing I really can experiment with. I can't afford quantum computers or anything like that. That'll be fun to play with, but I think we are quantum computers, so I'm running with that theory and I'm playing with that. So here's the good news. It doesn't have to be as hard for you. Have you already lost everything? Hey, great time to start over. That's what I did, and that was the best thing. Starting over, choosing to start over and start over my way was the best thing I had ever done. If you haven't lost everything yet, now's a great time to start understanding yourself and if those things are worth losing or not, because I've lost a lot of people in my life, and I've gained a lot of people in my life since then, but I had to take control of my energy and see, who's in this for me and who's not, and very few people were in it for me. They're just in it for what I could do for them. And so I had to drop them, and when I dropped that, weight, I, lifted even further. If you don't have kids, man, you are fortunate. Why are you so sad? Go create some happiness. That's the thing is, like, if you don't have a lot of obligations, take that as freedom, and try something you haven't ever tried before. Use this suicidal, use your suicidal moments to change your life. It's like, a lot of people think they have to go back to the life that they were in. And it's like, well, you don't have to kill yourself. You could say if your marriage is making you suicidal like it was me, I eventually I got out of it, not of my own free will, but I got out of it, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I think it's worth taking into consideration that if you're gonna die, if you're gonna choose to die, and if you have the means to do anything other than die, you should at least try to redirect those means that you're using on the things that's contributing to your current situation, and just try to change it. No matter how hard it is, try to change it, and then see how you feel. And I think you'll learn a lot in the process of changing. You'll see just how much power you do have in your life, and then you can decide whether or not suicide is the answer for you. So, and like I said, I haven't completely taken it off the table for myself, because I know how high maintenance I am, and now that's kind of the double-edged sword of understanding who I am, is understanding how high maintenance I am, and how ill-equipped I am to attain the riches I need to because I'm not willing to sell myself like a whore, right? I'm not willing to just, you know, put my best, I'm not willing to just, be put out there for money. Like, I don't, money's not my driving factor. I would like a nice life, but I'm looking for something much deeper than money to keep me going, and because I need to find something to make money worth getting, and that's where I'm at philosophically, is trying to figure out what's worth going through the torture of getting money in America, right? Of working for idiots. What's worth working for these morons, right? Just to do, because and honestly, at the end of the day, I might just try to get everything. I'm just gonna publish all my findings, and I might end up in an accident somewhere. You know, that is probably the most ideal situation for me at this current time, because you know I'm looking for a job. I was recently fired, and now I'm looking for another job, but it's hard. You know, interviewing with people that are just so dense, and the businesses are created this way, right? They're created this way because this whole society praises mediocrity, right? So go figure. Of course we're all suicidal. Of course we're all depressed. We're depressed because we're probably better than everyone else, right? And we can't understand why the world's not working the way it's supposed to work. And that's where you have to create your own world. You have to create your own happiness, because the world doesn't work the way we want it to work. It works the way it works, and you have to work within it. You have to find the best way you work within it, and the more you know yourself, the better you can work within it. But you know, the changes I want to see are coming, but they'll happen in hundreds of years. So now it's like I can see every one of my dreams coming true, and I can also see that I'm probably not going to be part of them. I'm just working to help facilitate a better life for somebody in the future. So knowing that, it's like, well, let me just get all the information out of me, and then I can go in peace, maybe. So I'm trying to get all this information out, and then maybe I'll go, and maybe it won't be suicide. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to, maybe I'll be fortunate enough to be taken, not know it. Painless, nice painless death. Nice painless death would be ideal. But you know, that's the thing, right? Money isn't everything, and it won't make you happy. This is true. This money is just a tool that makes creating your happiness easier. And nothing that came easy is worth having, right? So why do you think rich people kill themselves all the time? Because money isn't everything. And you know, you have to understand what true happiness is, what it means to you specifically. And when you can figure out what it means to you specifically, then you can translate that to the world. And when you can translate that to the world, you can make money with it. Right? If you're poor, you can make money. Right? Money is not hard to make, especially if you've gone to these places that I've been. Right? There's whole industries built around helping people, and you don't need any licensing or anything. I've looked into it, but I don't think a lot of this stuff people should have to pay for. So I'm headbutting industries with my own philosophy, and I can't. I don't want to make money this way. I shouldn't have to make money helping people. Helping people, we should all just help people. So I can't find a good way to help people and make money from it. Honestly, that you know, that I feel okay doing. It's like, well, it's like I'd rather just help someone and let them go off and live a happy life and be like, man, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. And that's it. You know, that's all I really want. But that and to do art. But I'm not talented as an artist, and I just not talented at all. And I don't want to learn because it's gonna take forever to learn. It's like I'm just lazy. Like yeah, it's like yeah, like everybody's like, yeah, man, why don't you go ahead and kill yourself? Thanks for helping us not kill ourselves, but you totally go ahead. That's all I want. And yeah, so you know, at the end of the day, you know, I do definitely understand if you're thinking about killing yourself. But it can get better. But you have to decide. You have to decide on how it's going to get better, right? I can't decide how it's going to get better. For me, I have no idea. I just want to do art. I want to do things that I'm not allowed to do, that I can't do, right? Because I'm not. There's so many people out there that are so much more talented and deserve so much more accolades for what they do. It would be a travesty to life. You know, like it's, you know, I guess we have to continue to bolster up these mediocre people because they'll probably be the ones to really kill themselves. All right. So hopefully you can take something from this, learn from my mistakes. Hopefully you're watching this video at a lot earlier age than I came to this information. And hopefully you can change your life and make it the life that you want to be. Like I said, I know I can do it. I can make the life I want. It's just going to be freaking hard because the life I want is that of a magnate, you know. And that's hard work. That is hard work, guys. You're talking about some strict dedication to everything. Like, if you want to be rich, you have no idea what it takes to be rich. I investigated what it takes to be rich. It's a lot. And I'm like, I think I'd rather be dead. I think I'd rather be dead. Because, you know, and it's only until you get it, right? Once you get it, it becomes easy. But getting it is the hard part, right? And that's like, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? It's like, I could just help people and not worry about the money part and still accomplish my goal. And you know, so I just decided just to help people, not worry about the money. But apparently you need money to live, so I'm gonna try to make, I got one more week of rent left, so I'm gonna try to make as many videos as I can in this next week, and then I'm gonna go disappear into the wilderness probably, because yeah, that's how my life's turning out. So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. And maybe I'll live another year. It'll definitely be an interesting story to tell. Definitely be an interesting story to tell. This next year, we're going to see how interesting it's going to get. Since I can't kill myself, I can only hope for an accident. So don't worry. Don't be messaging me talking about, hey, don't kill yourself. I don't need to hear it. It's not going to have an effect on me. It doesn't have, those things don't have an effect on anyone when they're in that state of mind, you know. So if you want to help somebody, you know, go find somebody that you can, you know, send them this video. Don't message me. Find somebody who needs to hear this. Find somebody else who needs the help. All right, I don't need the help. I can help myself when I'm ready and when I want. You know, I just want more than I think I'll be able to attain, and you can't. You know, and want is a never-ending thirst, and that want's just gonna, you know, consume my life if I let it. So, you know, maybe I'll be able to go the path of the guru one day and live in the mountains and meditate all day, and people will climb the mountain and ask me the meanings of life, and I'll say, go to my YouTube channel. Just go to the YouTube. Why'd you climb them? I wanted to be in peace. Just go to the YouTube channel. That's gonna be that's the guru life I want. People come to me miles and miles and trek, and I'll say, ah, yes, I don't have Wi-Fi here, man. You're gonna have to go down to the visitor center and tap into the YouTube channel. uh, that would be the greatest guru of all. If you didn't learn something from that, man, there's no helping you. Well, I hope this does help somebody. Because I know what it's like to deal with constant suicidal thoughts, you know. And, you know, hopefully I'll find a way to live better, improve my circumstances that don't make me curse my own philosophy. But if not, you know, I'll have videos for you, and I'll be immortal on the internet, whether or not I'm around or not. So I hope you can beat your suicide. I hope you can do it. It's doable. I lived a whole year without having a suicidal thought, and I could do it again if I really tried. But I'm exhausted. That year exhausted the heck out of me. I don't have the money to go buy the energy. I'm just tired and exhausted. Like, life has really beaten me to hell and back in starting over, because starting over is hard. So, you know, it was fun. It was fun too. Some of the best, you know, and you've probably got other people in your life that like you and love you more than I did. You know, I was mean to everybody. I hated everybody, so I pushed everybody away. So I'm like starting over from scratch, and it's not bad, but you definitely see the world a lot differently, and you definitely know there's a lot more to this world than you thought. And it just gets more and more complicated and more complex, but it's more and more awe-inspiring if you look at it the right way. And I think if, you know, reconciling the unknown in some kind of way is going to be a big, you know, and just investigate it on your own terms. You know, what are you? What keeps the lights on? Investigate it and find out for yourself, and then start a religion. And have people give you money for, you know, talking, and that's going to be the, you know, the probably most ideal life anyone could ask for. So, yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you took something from this, and don't kill yourself.